if you do have this amazing, amazing dream, right? It's an amazing, amazing thing you want to happen. My thing is like, do you have the feather? Like, do you have like, it's good to be passionate, but can you sell it?
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, how are you all doing this week? Welcome to episode 180 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. This episode is brought to you by DKMS, an international nonprofit that has been helping people who are battling blood cancers and blood disorders all over the world. DKMS has registered over 8 million potential bone marrow donors and facilitated over 70,000 bone marrow donations for patients in need. So if you want to learn more about DKMS and how you can help them save more lives, just text DKMS to 50555 or visit dkms.org. This past week has been such a blur. So many good things have happened that I can't wait to tell you guys about. But the one thing that has been on my mind has been this idea of creating a vision board. I normally kind of just write things down and have this mental vision board of what I want to achieve. But I'm thinking heading into 2019, I'm going to get a poster board, cut out some pictures from a magazine or print them out, and create a visual board that I can hang up in my home office, in my car, wherever. And I want to see how that pans out and how that works for me. So this week's guest is Gina Charbonnet, an internet and event production veteran who's going to share her story about how she turned her love for art and media into a career helping to create events that inspire and empower worldwide. Gina is the founder of GeChar, which is a premier resource in multimedia production that specializes in empowering cultural content and programming. Gina has a long-standing relationship with the Essence Festival, where she serves as the executive producer of the festival's empowerment programming since 2003. Her expertise has been tapped from major events and organizations such as Essence, Black Girls Rock, NAACP, the National Democratic Committee, the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, BET, Converse, and more. We're going to be talking about how you can take your amazing talents and dreams and monetize it and figure out how to turn your creativity into a business. As always, if you enjoy this episode, I ask that you please share it with a friend. I love it when you guys are screenshotting and sharing on Instagram, but you can also share on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you are, or on social, we are there. You can find us at Dreams and Drive across the board, and you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. I want to give a shout out to our review of the week. I am so thankful when you guys are going into Apple Podcasts and iTunes and leaving a review. So I am going to take the time to shout out this one. This one is coming from Amira, and she says, episode 178 sold me. Thank you, Raina, for you speaking the truth with your friend on that episode. The notes I took will inspire me to get out of my own head and truly be creative in this state of entrepreneurship. I am accepting your friend's challenge and over the next couple of days figuring out what project I will achieve before the new year. Reminding myself that right now you and I are in a state of privilege and doubt is normal, but will never stop us. Excited for your event. Thank you so much, Amira. As you guys know, episode 178 was, it was definitely one of my more vulnerable episodes. I was just trying to share with you guys the realities of what quitting your job is like and just being honest about my own journey. So I'm glad that it touched you. If you want to hear your review read on the next episode of Dreams and Drive, just log on to Apple Podcasts, iTunes Podcasts, click write a review, leave us a rating, and I'll be sure to read whoever leaves one next time. All right, so let's get to the episode. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to chat with you today to learn all about, what you've been able to build, the career you've been able to build for yourself in the events and production space.
Yeah, and I'm excited to speak to you about that and, just kind of share some stuff, some inspirations, just some insight, into how to run a business and, I really create a business based on your dreams. So I'm ready to talk about it.
So let's go back. I love taking it back with our guests. Let's go to New Orleans, right? Who was Gina the 8-year-old? What was inspiring you as a child?
Oh my God. So I had a very interesting childhood. And when I say that, my family owned a funeral home. My father's family owned a funeral home.
Okay.
And it's one of the oldest funeral homes in the city. It's called Charbonnet Funeral Homes, and now I think it's called Charbonnet Glapion. We have 3 names under the funeral home. But I grew up immersed in my community, my family business. I had a very interesting childhood where I was playing hide and seek in the funeral home parlor. Really, I had a 6 feet under experience, you know what I mean, as a kid. But in saying that, it was the neighborhood where the funeral home was based was in Treme, and Treme is said to be the oldest African American neighborhood, in the country. And so for me, was very inspired by what I saw, around me. In Treme, and in Treme, they had, we had second lines. Of course, we had jazz funerals, a parade every Mardi Gras. As a kid growing up, I'd see 4 and 5-year-olds walking down the street playing horns. So being in that sort of environment, really does give you a different sort of cultural perspective of who you are. And so I was very inspired just by, what was sort of like normal, to me, to just be inspired about just who I was, my background, the city. And so that really did give me a different perspective, just myself and how I sort of was, compared with other kids my age and other things going on. So
isn't it interesting how where we grow up impacts so much of who we are as a young child? Like my sister and I, we were talking about, so my parents are originally from Jamaica, but they moved to New York. So when they came to America, they were in New York and then they moved to New Jersey. And my sister and I were like, what if we grew up in New York? Cause we grew up in Jersey. So it's our lives would be so different, right? Just by that one little shift in location.
Right. It was just being immersed, like I said, I think in who we were as a people, because too, New Orleans, it's very Caribbean. Supposedly they said it's the most northeastern part of the Caribbean. It's kind of extended to New Orleans, just because a lot of traditions we do, a lot of food, the architecture, just the cultural sort of things that we cherish, the hugging and the kissing we see each other is very African, So for me, it was all about taking pride, in who I was as a Black woman, and seeing how, prideful people were, to really celebrate who we are, and that's the thing that New Orleans, has given me and still gives me to this day. It still inspires me and makes me proud and, and just wanting to also continue to invest myself in making sure we honor those traditions and honor our heritage. You know what I mean? And that's an amazing thing. So that's what I'm inspired by even today. I'm like, oh my God, I just love, what I saw around me growing up. So
what was the dream back then?
Oh my God. So I was a kid who at 4, I didn't talk a lot in school. And so my mom used to, she used to get these Harper's Bazaar magazines and Vogue magazines. She'd look at a dress and she'd literally cut a pattern out of paper.
Wow.
And she had this one area in the house where she'd make all her patterns and have materials and make her clothes and stuff like that. And as a kid, I'd watch her, but she encouraged me to figure out a medium to express myself. So basically I would paint, I was painting with watercolors and things like that as a kid, while my mom would create these amazing patterns and dresses. From a young age, my outlet was painting because I didn't have a voice. I think, and when I said I have a voice, that was really stemmed from me being, I think, one of 2 Black kids, right? In the school that I had gone to was Catholic, and they're integrating, and I was like, all right. And I didn't really have any sort of anybody I felt like I could relate to. And then, when I was that young, like at the age 5, they would call me the white N word. And so for me, I had to figure out.
Wow. 5 years old?
5, was in 5, and they would say crazy stuff like that. And I didn't even know what the N word was because, we don't talk like that, but in saying that for me, there had to be another outlet that I could express myself and this confusion I felt. And, it kind of almost makes you feel inferior because of the way that you're treated because you're so different. So that was my outlet at very young, between at 5 and really up until the time I was 17, I painted a lot. And that's really how I express myself.
During this time growing up, I know, you grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. Did you ever think that one day you either go into the family business or you have your own?
You know what? I always felt that I was in my own lane. And I say that because, sometimes my whole thing is that I remember being 4, I swear it's my first memory, that I was literally I was sitting somewhere in the ceiling with God. This is my first memory, telling God, okay, this is where it started. This is my life. That's what I remember, right? And so it's like, at that point, I'm like, honestly, as a kid, I always knew I was different. I'd always either be by myself or I was trying to explain something, or trying to be the little girl that was outrunning the guys, or played softball the best. I was always sort of this person that I always wanted to overachieve, and I always want to push myself beyond limits since I was a kid, and so for me, I feel like I've always known that I'd be in my own space. And I think that, being the family that I grew up in, of course it gives you sort of a vision to believe in, or it gives you sort of that support you need to say, okay, you can do it. But yeah, I always knew that.
I love that you said that, because I feel like that's a theme that I often get with a lot of the guests on the show, is this feeling when they were a child that they knew they were different. And I sometimes felt like that, right? But you can't go around telling people I'm different. Cause I'd be like, no, you're just crazy. No, but it's so true. There's this innate thing, even as a child, you're not able to express it, or you don't really know what will come of it. But I too always had that feeling I'm special in a way that if I stick to who I am and if I stay true to who I am, it'll pay off eventually. These things that people often, people used to tell me when I was a kid, oh, Raina, you are a chatty Cathy, right? That was my nickname. And, to some people, they could look at that and that could be a deterrent in their life. But for me, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use that to my advantage. Right. So definitely.
Right. I think that's awesome that you say that too, because as kids, we're always taught to be quiet.
Right.
And I think that, I know, especially growing up in my grandmother, she was like, you have to stay in your place, and didn't encourage us to have that voice. So I think that when, you're boisterous and when you're curious, and it's like the curiosity that you have is really about expressing that, which is amazing. So, yeah.
I was a question asker, and I had a problem with writing on walls. My mom was like, you were always writing. In my basement to this day, if you go in my mother's house, in her basement, there's a banister. I used to go to, there was a store called the Rag Shop, and they would have art supplies and stuff. And I painted. I told myself, I'm going to help my mom. I'm going to paint this, the end of the banister. She was so mad, but it's still there in the basement. The railing is still painted. Wow. Paints designs by Raina. Going on, thinking about life as an adolescent into your college days, you went to school, you got a bachelor's degree in journalism and a minor in film production, right?
Film studies, yeah.
Well, film studies. What was that the young adult Gina? How were you starting to put those dreams in action?
Well, it's like I said, I was a different kind of kid and a different kind of teenager, a popular loner.
I like that. I haven't heard that one before. Popular loner.
That's exactly what I was. I was this very not, and I didn't have any self-esteem. I was not confident. I know, that happens to us as we, in high school, you're not going to be as confident as you are as an adult, of course. But, because I painted, because for me, my interests are more creative. and I was around my mom who, really turned her creativity into a business. And so was very inspired by her, growing up. And so, was just in a space, I think, really where I felt comfortable to be in that creative space. At the same time, there was dating, there was dances, there was all this stuff that I never felt comfortable with because I felt like I was too exposed, And then, when I was 17, my mom got really ill unexpectedly and passed away. And when that happened, I stopped painting completely. Really sort of, went inside and stayed there for a long time. And when I say that, like I really was living with, all this pain and living with, like, oh my God, I feel so alone, and living with trying to figure out how I'm going to take care of my sister's 11 and, having my dad step in and say, okay, I'm going to be dad now, dealing with all this stuff. Like when I was a senior in high school, I really got through school and wasn't concerned about going to college at all. Like I was like, okay, I'm just going to go because my mom had promised me I was going to go to an art school and pursue my painting and all this stuff. And so when she died, my dad's like, you're not going anywhere. So the dream was kind of killed for me.
A dream deferred.
Dream deferred on the real. Like, my dad's like, you're not doing that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I need to go pursue this. You know what I mean? Because I knew that that's who I was. It was such a big part of my life. And so I had gone to college after I did get into University of New Orleans, post high school. But I have to tell you, I was so disinterested in being there. And so I took art classes. And I think the last straw for me was when I had an art class, like a 3-dimensional art class. And the professor, was like, I don't know, creating sculptures that were very perverted to me.
Oh no.
I mean, like he was doing stuff and I'm like, okay, I'm an 18-year-old girl and this is really weird to me. I didn't see any, I didn't understand what he was doing. He wasn't a big name artist. I didn't understand his whole whatever. So, but he was doing stuff like, he would do stuff like frogs with genitals. It was really weird. And so I was like, I'm out. So I just literally did not go back to school, to college. I didn't tell my dad. I had decided that I was going to find a job somewhere in the arts field and do that. And so I got a job at an art gallery. Literally, I want to say 2 weeks after I decided not to go back to school, eventually told my dad. Of course, he was not happy with me at all. And so, but in doing that, it really gave me a chance to really just kind of be with myself. At that point, I don't think school was the best fit for me. I needed to really figure out where I was. I felt emotionally to really connect with what my purpose was, why I was here. And so I literally managed art galleries for 3 years, went back to school, and I was like, you know what? Now I'm ready. And so when I got back, it was all about, me being in a space where I was reading like African literature, and it was more about, reading about the connection to culture and tradition and how proud, you should be and what writing can do for you. That really did pull me in and did amazing in school, and decided that, I had an opportunity to study film and figure out how to make films and critique film. And I did that. And so I did that. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is where I belong, And so I had convinced one of the professors when I was a senior in college that I was like, I don't want to, my last semester as a senior, I was like, I don't want to be in this classroom. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I really need to work. I need to figure out like what I want to do. So I had an opportunity to work on a TV series as a PA, and he let me, be a PA.
For your so you didn't have to go to school for your last semester?
No, I guess I must have talked a really good game back then. I was like, all my professors were like, you can just go ahead and work. It's fine. Just check in with us every 3 weeks and do the work. And so I did that. And, once I got on set, it was in this element and, to connect to other people who were like me that were, a little off and a little quirky, had black humor. I was like, oh my God, this is where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? And so from that point forward, like I was bit by the production bug, in a sense that, it was a space that I could still be my quirky, nerdy self, and still blossom and be supported in an environment that was really about supporting, just sort of my work sort of vision or my creative vision. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I was at home finally. So it was great. So I did some PA work, did some production coordination work. And then I decided that, okay, I want to go back to school. Because I had in New Orleans, I didn't want to leave back then. And in New Orleans, the film market shifted to more like a live events space. And so when it happened, I was fortunate enough to actually, Quint Davis, who really, created the Jazz and Heritage Festival in New Orleans. He spoke to me. He's like, do you want to, maybe come in and help us out? And I'm like, cool, I did that. And so from that opened the door for me to really work on Essence. Cause, back then, Vessel Productions in New Orleans produced Essence. And so it opened some doors in that I was, able to bring sort of this organizational structure and operational structure to this live event space that I had learned in the film space. It's kind of, what happened. And then when I went to school, I decided that I was going to study arts administration, which is kind of an arts degree combined with the MBA, to really, just figure out, how do I build a creative business that really is about the business side of it, which is not what we think about when we think a creative business. Do you know what I mean? Like that was what I wanted to exist in. And I didn't know I'm like, how are you going to do this? And so my first semester in graduate school, I decided to incorporate my business, and I did that.
Right, so we just talked about so much. I took some notes because there's two things that I really just want to highlight. What do you think were some of the biggest lessons that you were learning about you and your skill set and your potential and your capabilities during this period of transition?
Wow, that's what's so interesting about life is that everything is so connected. Like your emotions are connected to what motivates you every day to live. Your spirituality is something that if you don't nurture it, it'll dry up, and it's like you're going to be a miserable person.
Yeah.
So I do really feel like that period was more about, Gina, you need to figure out who you are. You need to, figure out emotionally, like what's going on with you, and in order, I think, because I knew that there's something bigger in my life. I knew that God put me on this earth. Like I could tell you, even go back to, like I said, the story when I was 4 years old and looking down my family living room, I knew something it was going to be different about my life. Or there was something I had to invest myself in and invest myself in myself. Mm-hmm. At a tender age of 18, I was hormonal, I lost my backbone to my life. And it was more about, I needed to nurture myself. And that's what I did. What it showed me that time was really important to what I didn't want to do. Like, I managed an art gallery with these very bougie people, had these high maintenance, I need this, I need that, like literally bow down all the time. And I was like, I am not going to do this the rest of my life. Like, I'm good. This is giving me, I know that I can run a business. I know that I can sell my business. I kind of knew, what it took day to day to run a business based on that. I knew I had to also deal with certain type of clients and their sort of personas. So it gave me all this great stuff that I learned. But the most important thing, like I said, for me is that I learned for me to be happy, I could not do certain things anymore professionally.
No, that's such an important lesson, because I think a lot of us sometimes get stuck in that toxic place for so long that we don't even realize it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And, I smiled I smiled the whole time while I was doing it. But, I'm happy that I did take the time out to really learn more, make mistakes and do whatever I had to do to really, to really learn more about me, and so and too about what drove me. So for me, when we talk about dreams and drive, it's like, I've always been creative. I'm very passionate about the things I create, or, I live this life that's really about investing in arts and culture and experiences. So for me, it's like, I don't know, all this stuff was tying, and I just couldn't tie it in together at the time. But like I said, even going back to school and writing and, studying African literature and journalism, all that stuff started tying back into storytelling, and also how to create these stories, and being on a television production set, it's just looking at how these stories came to life, the work that went into, this creative storytelling. That's, I took it all in. I'm like a big sponge all the time.
So you decided that you wanted to start a business that centers around the business of creativity. Is that what I think you were saying something along that lines.
So for me, it was about, monetizing creativity in a way. And I say that now, it's like, people are creative, but creatives don't always think it's a business. Like when you think about you're a brand. Mm-hmm. That's a business, and so you have to sustain your business. And how do you do that? How do you do that and survive? How do you do that and invest in you, a 401k? How do you do that and, pay taxes? How do you do that so you can structure yourself in a way that you're solvent, that you're bankable? That was really important for me to understand the business side of, figure out the business side to being a creative business as well. I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So why the event space, and how did you start, I guess, within your own business? How are you then creating your services, creating your package, and delivering on that?
So for me, this event space just happened. They say life happens, mm-hmm. and life about timing and luck. That is so true. For me, when I started working on, I kind of switched gears from working in the film and television production space to, working on like the Jazz and Heritage Festival in New Orleans. I had to shift gears, and when I shifted gears, like I said, for me, in that space, everybody was like kumbaya, holding hands, let's together, and let's just have a good time and, drink beer, listen to music. I'm like going, okay, it's not really me. Like I'm just, cause I'm always very regimented. And so I was like, I don't know about this. But in saying that, when I did get the opportunity to work as an administrative assistant, on Essence, and work on the side that's about creating, the operations side, I'm going to say that, like how to facilitate a meeting, how to communicate with people you're facilitating a meeting with, looking at contracts, looking at how to make communication between multiple parties across states, right? How do you make it more streamlined? That's the kind of things that, I came in and I helped to make it add more efficiency to processes that had already existed. And so that's what I was able to do. And so for me, when I did that, I literally started off as a production assistant, at the convention center, went from that to like being an administrative assistant to the coordinating producer, did that, and jumped from like being a production manager to line producer, to a producer of the seminar series, which back then the Empowerment Experience we call a seminar series, to really working really closely with Susan Taylor. So it's was really about, like I said, timing and luck, in that, just, and two, was able to also be creative in that space, which people, it's, when I say that, like I also was part of creating the programming that we saw on stage, at the same time I had to also logistically manage things.
So I want to take the time to tell you guys a little bit more about our sponsor, DKMS. I want to really make sure that you guys understand how important it is to sign up for a swab kit to see if you could be a potential bone marrow match. So here's the story. Baby Elias is just a year old, and there are only 22 other people who have been diagnosed with the rare genetic disease that he has. He has no immune system, so a cold or infection could be devastating. So think about all the things we take for granted, playing outside, sports, whatever. Not only won't Elias be able to do them, he'll be fighting to stay alive. So we need you to sign up. You can be the person that steps up and helps this kid get a second shot at life. The more people like you and me that get registered, the better the chance of finding a match for Elias is. This is just one story of many. Imagine all the other children, young men, young women, older men, and older women who are needing a bone marrow donor and can't find a match. So if you're interested in learning how you can be a match and potentially save someone's life, just text DKMS to 50555 for more info, or you can visit dkms.org to order your free swab kit, swab your cheeks, return the kit to DKMS to get on the bone marrow registry, and then you'll see if you're a match. And if you get a call from DKMS, say yes. You could save a kid like Elias's life or someone else. So pick up your cell phone right now, guys, and text DKMS to 50555. The person that you could potentially save could have a really big dream that they want to drive, and you'll be the key along their journey to help keep them going. All right, let's get back to the episode. It seems so exciting, right? Because when you think about Essence Festival, I mean, I've never gone, but I mean, I've seen Girls Trip. I've seen, I've seen all like the recaps. It's so large, right? You don't think about there's so many moving parts that go into it. Like, just from a logistical perspective, or not even perspective, this is just a quick answer. When you're working with Essence, so Essence is the client, right? So is this like a project base, or is it something that like you're on retainer for them or with them for the entire year, and you're just like part of their Essence Fest team? Like, how does that work?
We're like an independent contractor.
Okay.
Right? That we work with them every year. So I guess you could say our contracts may be considered seasonal.
Okay.
Think about the event space. And so, we've worked with them since I still work with them in 2002, like I said, with Susan Taylor, when Festival Productions Inc. in New Orleans, I was working for them, and they brought me in, to work in these various capacities. But like I said, I started my company, when I was in graduate school, and in 2003, I convinced, I talked to somebody about, I want to get paid through my company, not through me. That's very important, people,
That LLC, right? That's separate LLC.
Yeah, it is. It's like, so I was like, so it's okay, we'll pay you through company. And so when that shifted the perspective of who I was, in a sense that, you're paying my company. And so that even gave me a big perspective of Gina can now separately do this on her own, and in 2007, I was hired separately on my own, through GeChar to literally hire my own team, and work on the creative development side as well too. And so, so that was a big leap for us. But it's something that, we've been fortunate to have, this amazing contract. And it really is, the work that we do with the festival is, what can I say? It's amazing to see, like our culture again, come to life.
Yep.
Like this year, I had to take an aha moment, when I was walking through the convention center, and now it's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 halls. I swear it's huge. And, back when I started, it was like 3 or 2 or something like that. But now it's like huge. They have the beauty space. They have a lifestyle space. They got, all this stuff together. Entertainment all access space on top of our space too, where we have these really incredible conversations. But I take a moment and go, oh my God, what you see in the media and what you see in the news, and how, we're still treated, as Black people, and, just how we've had to fight and struggle to take this moment. And I'm like, this is amazing to see all these beautiful faces, these beautiful people that are celebrating who we are. Yep. Do you know what I mean? That's amazing. And so that's why the work that, we do with the festival, to me, is some of the most important work that we do, because we're able to take these stories that are in the magazine, or take the most relevant, trending, issues or topics, and take those topics and bring them to life. So we do, talk about things that are affecting our community. We do talk about, like I'm talking to you, how to pursue our dreams, how do we keep supporting each other? How do we keep inspiring each other? How do we as a culture keep growing, and how do we keep celebrating the beauty in just traditions and what makes us who we are,
Along that lines of support, like what has been, I know you're in charge of the empowerment festival, but when it comes to support, what's the biggest thing that I don't want to say is only lacking, but what's just the biggest thing that you think we as a community can do so that we can really empower and support one another?
I think we have to be open. And when I say that, we have to continue just to be open to each other in our stories, and not be judgmental. So I think that sometimes, because I think of our experiences, and I think we've had to literally be resilient and fight for just about everything, that we have in the space that we're in. We have to just continue to fight for that. But at the same time, I think we have to also be more inclusive to different ideals about who we are as people, right? So I think sometimes we get it's like these different ideas about, I'm a Christian, but what kind of Christian are you?
A bad Christian, a good Christian.
It's just like, as a Christian, God is all about love. And I think we have to remember that, we should walk into any space, meet anybody, and just be so unconditional when we meet them. So there's no sort of judgment about who they are, and turn off those negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. I think, and just be open to just, who a person is, and listen,
Definitely.
Listen to each other, I think, and try to help each other more. I mean, the one thing in Jewish community and in Vietnamese community, like they're constantly, I'm going to help you open this business. Or Jews are like, Jewish people are like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I recommend you for this, or this might be a good fit for you. So, just passing on the success that we have, passing on, mentorship, passing on, that, hey, let me be here for you, or no, if you want to talk to me, I'll listen. And, I want to help you make a good decision. I just think we have to be open to each other, mm-hmm. and be supportive of each other, without the judgment, so we can be a stronger community. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important. I think we also have to look at concepts, and practices every day, because, that are, and I say practices and rituals that we have incorporated. I think we have to start looking at alternative ways, I think, to really just put us on a higher plane so we can be nicer to each other, more considerate, and just be happier people. That's meditation, that's prayer. It's just those kind of things I think, will definitely make us more open as a community.
No, I definitely agree with all that. Let's go a little bit into the events, into your events expertise, Gina, right? I know our listeners are probably waiting for me to ask you about this. When thinking about, your experience with producing the Essence Festival, and it's your job to really create inspiring experiences for the the festival goers, right? What are some things that you think we as dream drivers really need to consider when we're creating our own events? And you can really talk about like your experience in just producing the Essence Festival as well.
Well, I think you have to, first of all, consider your audience. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you don't have an audience for what you're doing, you're not going to be successful. That's really important, that you have to think about how can you create something where the audience is going to invest in, the event, whether it's entertainment, whether it's like speakers, food, whatever it is. You have to create this project. It's not just for you. Let's keep that simple.
It's not a vanity project. It's not like a launch party for yourself.
Great idea. And it's not about that. It's more about, it's great that, you have these amazing ideas, but you got to think about who's going to invest in this idea. I think you also have to think about the structure. If you're going to do an event, you got to think about, what do I need, business wise to make it happen. And when I say that, it's like, do you trademark it? Do you have a budget in mind? The thing that, again, I was watching Insecure at Issa Rae, and she wants to do that event in Inglewood. She's like, oh my God. Like, that's what people don't realize, that like literally is an idea I've been working on for 10 years. Like, no, I shouldn't say 10 years, 8 years. And finally we just got, funds to actually make it happen. And I was like, it took me 10 years to like literally go, okay, so, and I've been pitching it for a long time. And then, for me, it's like I had to shift sort of like my perspective of it, make it a more marketable idea. And so I could sell to build some capital so I can develop it. And I literally just got money for this idea in July.
Wow. Congratulations.
So we're developing this thing called Brass Out that really is going to be an event that we can take some of the New Orleans like brass band music and take it out, into the world, and not just keep it in New Orleans and have it celebrated. And we could brass out any city. You could brass out, I don't know, Newark. You can brass out, Madrid. You can brass out, Tokyo. You can brass out anywhere. So that's what we're working on, this idea. It's really going to make it fun and marketable and something that's hot and trendy. And so that's what we are, in the midst of developing budgets for, talking to attorneys, trademarking, doing all this stuff. So that's really important. We got to think about the business end of it. What does that look like? And what pieces do you need? Like what consultants, like what's, even like how, you have to also think about, okay, so how, what is my budget for the business, while I'm doing this? All that stuff's in really, really, important. My thing too is like and if you do have this amazing, amazing dream, right? It's amazing, amazing thing you want to happen. My thing is like, do you have the feather? Like, do you have like, it's good to be passionate, but can you sell it? Can you make everyone feel, this infectious like excitement about it?
Do you have an example of something you were able to sell or just something that you think was sold well?
I know that Brass Out for us, I did the Goldman Sachs course, and I pitched my idea in this course, and that's how I got the funding.
Okay.
For it. So that's important that, we kind of continue to educate ourselves so that, we do have the right business skill set, in that business sort of space with bankers and, in the financial space. It's really, really important. But I mean, it's, there's something I've been working on that, I'm very passionate about. And again, I'm molding this idea and I don't want to talk too much about it and put it out. For me, like I'm working on a TV pilot that's based on, I guess it's kind of autobiographical. That's, kind of based on just my rearing and experiencing, growing up in a very interesting environment like we talked about earlier. But I think it's like, talking to different people along the way for the last several years about what this thing could be, it's great that I'm excited about it, but at the same time I have to, now I'm figuring out how to add nuances to my pitch so that, it's sort of making it a clearer vision. And two, I think we have to also figure out how to be, have this infectious excitement in like literally a minute. Like, can you do that in a minute? So you can pitch it to anybody. It's an elevator pitch. So I can't give an example of exactly what, I'm working on because I don't want to put it out there too much. It's kind of, we're still in development, but I think you have to figure out a way, like it's just not be passionate, but literally you have to be able to have someone feel what you feel.
And I think a lot of people, sometimes we get stuck in how we feel about it. But I was just on Instagram the other day and it was like someone who was trying to pitch I think they were like, I'm trying to hitchhike to, it was like example of good marketing, like good marketing or bad marketing was, I'm trying to get to San Francisco, right? And then the good marketing example was, I'm going home to grandma's for Thanksgiving. You get the difference? And so it was like, you have to really know how to connect. Like you're trying to get somewhere, right? But what is it that people really want to connect with? And even thinking about Essence Festival, what you were describing earlier about being in a space with all these like Black and brown bodies who are there to support and uplift and empower, like that stuff is infectious. And that's why every year, doesn't the festival, like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Every year.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, they as I think advertising age calls it the festival of the force. I think it really is. I mean, it's something that I think, of course, having Girls Trip helps because it made it into an entertainment experience, I think, in sort of a bigger context. And that was able to convey the feeling Essence gives a person or an attendee in the audience when they experience it. but it really is. I mean, it's something that's huge. It's, it's something that is a very special event because it really does celebrate who we are, but in the way that it celebrates our excellence across all different sorts of genres. When I say that, of course, it's the music that literally keeps it going, but I think the conversations that we have during the day, especially empowerment experience, like the pulse, like the things that makes our sort of, blood flow through our veins is more about the nourishment, sustainability. And so what we do, like on our stage on Empowerment Experience, is really about, talking about the things that keep us going, sustainability, and what we can do in our communities and how it's important for us to have a voice, and helping, work. I mean, literally, learning about policies that affect us, learning about laws that affect us, learning how, talk about the importance of the midterm elections right now. We talked about that. That was, I think in July, we probably the largest gathering of African-American women that we had before, November, you know what I mean? And we had Stacey Abrams there, we had Congressman
wow.
there, Angela Rye, was there. We had these amazing, we had even had a conversation with Lester Holt and Meek Mill, Remy Ma about prison reform. So, and that's really important as we talk about, parole and what being a felon means, not having the right to vote, like it's what's taken away from you and how you're treated. And, we talked about too with like Mayor Cantrell, who's the first, female mayor of the city of New Orleans, talking with her team about, one of her biggest sort of like, I want to say, I guess like biggest points on her agenda is really, assisting women post being incarcerated, talking about, how women, when they get out of prison, they don't even have a cell phone to call their children. They got to figure out how to feed themselves. They got to figure out how to buy underwear. I mean, basic things like that. As a community, I mean, I don't think the majority of us don't even know that. You know what I mean? And like, suppose I have children. I'm getting out of prison. So I got to figure out, how I'm going to, get a job and how I'm going to even pay for a babysitter if I got to have a job, so or, just even getting, trying to figure out how to get back into normalcy of being out of prison, and taking care of myself. What does that mean? So it's like things like that. It's like, that's the kind of things that we talk about, and so we can inform, the audience just about these sort of struggles, not just struggles, but just the things that you may not be thinking about this person's dealing with, and to make us more aware. We create awareness. What we do is contribute to that. And so we can all be more enlightened beings at the end of the day, more enlightened coming out of this festival, that is so much about celebrating who we are. It really does, I think, give people some takeaways. And some charges, like, we need to do this when we get home. I need to be involved in this. I need to call my, I don't know, senator, congressperson, whatever, or I need to volunteer more, whatever you need to do. It really does give you that sort of takeaway. So it is a very fulfilling, just space and that we can work in.
And it also shows you the power of the platform, right? Where you can get people together in a space where maybe somebody who was popping in, they might have said, I just want to see Remy, right? And they may not have even cared about the issues that she was talking about. But now that she's in the space, when they leave, they are now educated and they now are truly, as you said, empowered to then take action. So I think it's a lot of us can really think about, like, how are we using our platforms to really educate our communities and inspire them to do things that they may not have otherwise even imagined or even knew about, right? I think that's a really big thing, especially within our communities. But Gina, along our journeys, there's always going to be, parts where we have to put the car in park, we have to put it in neutral, right? Even reverse. What are some challenges that you're currently facing or that you might have faced along this road that, you've learned from and, you continue to move through?
So, I think, it's growing your business, and I know that, and sustaining yourself as a creative entity, what does that look like? How do you do that? So, like for me, I'm excited right now because, we are working on these amazing ideas and, we're growing, the business so that We're now not just tackling the event space, or like we want to own our concepts, right? So for me, it's like figuring out, okay, so Gina, you got to keep, we got to keep it going. We need to have clients, and I want to keep doing the work that I love to do, in a space of upliftment, and investing in our community and being an advocate, and being an activist. Like I want to stay in a space, but I'm like, okay, so how do I do that? At the same time, develop these concepts so we can own, right? Own our own stuff. And that's a challenge. I mean, I have to say, it's a time management challenge. It's a challenge. Okay, so how do you even create the financial structure to do that? Like it's like, okay, so all this stuff is like really real. You know what I mean? Like it's real. Like even, where I am now, we are in this amazing phase of growth. Because I could literally, my skin crawls talking about it. Like I could feel it. I could feel it, this potential. But it's like you have to really think about all these things, and consider like, okay, so how do I budget? Because you got to think about it, for me as a business, the thing that I know that I've learned along the way, and the bumps and bruises I've gotten and the triumphs and the jubilant moments and all stuff, it's really about, financially making yourself sound, and that's like, you got to figure out, okay, so I got to start the 401k, I got to pay taxes, also, not being overwhelmed by it all. Because, like when you're a small business, even though you have attorneys, you have lawyers, you have, you have accountants, all stuff. It's really, you have to stay on top of so much. You really do. It's not a burden. I don't want to come off or have it communicate that way, but you really do have to keep all of the stuff sort of balanced. And that growth it'll challenge you in ways you're going, oh my God, so I didn't think about this, or something to come up like, oh, so you've been audited by an insurance company. And so now, based on you making more money, your policy may have been this in, like May, but in, October, it's this now. And you got to pay them an extra $3,000, stuff like that.
Oh my gosh. And in the event space, you really need insurance, right? I mean, not saying you always need insurance, but I know you really have to have special types of insurances.
Oh, I mean, you got to be bonded in certain cases. In order for you to play, in a bigger playing field, business wise, you have to, it's the bonding, it's the insurance, it's all these things that you have to invest in. And again, financially mapping that out. What does really owning a business, if you want it, depending on what you want to do, of course, that financial piece is so important. That, that business plan is so important. And having the right people that know your business, not just your sister who you're going to hire because she needs a job. Or the cousin. The cousin is, oh my God, I have this great idea. I can really make this work for you. Like you really need to think about putting people in place that can support your type of business. If you're going to be in a space, like, you need to hire an attorney for like an entertainment, you need to hire an entertainment attorney. So they know how to look at certain contracts and know what verbiage needs to be included to make sure you're protected. Financially, you need to know someone, that's going to be able to, you have to have accountants that can help you, figure out your right categories for your financial statements. We don't think about that. Like, I had an accountant that was creating, these sort of categories. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, wait, so it's like, you have to really be a very mindful, participatory business owner. You have to be dedicated to that. What is that? And when, times get tough and things are, you go through challenges, you can't, you got to be able to deal with that. And that's not for the faint of heart.
I know, and especially as creatives, right? I feel like a lot of us, sometimes we get overwhelmed. We're like, but I have the vision, right? And it's like, no, sis, you gotta get the vision and then get the fuel behind it, because I think that's why a lot of us, sometimes we aren't able to scale. So we have ideas. We may put on a fabulous, one-time event and we just never do it again. What advice would you have for that person who's trying to scale their creativity beyond? I know you mentioned a lot of great stuff here, but is there anything else else that you really think that creatives need to keep in mind?
I think you just have to make sure, that you thoroughly flush whatever this thing out. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you have to, again, it's really important to have people that are around you that are supportive of you, that can help you make sense of the dream too. And also to have people in your life that are going to give you honest feedback about what you're doing. And if something doesn't make sense, like to have someone in your life say, okay, it doesn't make sense, and maybe you should rethink that idea. I think it's important to have these kind of people in your life. Like you have to be able to have these kind of people in your life. You have to also know that you have to have people in your life that are reflective of who you are. Yeah. Right. And so, it's really important that you figure out like who you are, who you want to be in this space, so you can attract the right people around you that, are going to help you grow or help you see a bigger vision of yourself, or the ones that are not going to be naysayers, like, they'll be like, well, I don't even see how it's going to work. You don't want
dream killers. That's what I call them. Dream killers are real.
They are out there when they're miserable and they're doing this whole like reverse psychology thing. You don't want that. You like people who are going to bring you up, people who are going to challenge you. That's what you really want in your life. And it's so important. I think that, in our being overwhelmed and being in our dreamy states, and, we have to also keep in mind that we have to be connected to who we are all the time. And that is really to have a good spiritual philosophy about your life, incorporating rituals, practices that really keep you grounded, right? Mm-hmm. You have to stay grounded in this process, because it's not for the weak of heart. When you don't have the money to pay somebody, or to pay that bill, you guys say, okay, I gotta figure out creative how to make it work, right? So we're good for doing that. We're resilient for that. But I'm saying, you really have to. It really, it really is about maintaining who you are as a person across all levels of your life. I mean, it really is about just being strong. And like I said, just making sure you have the right people. Your family is so important. Making sure you're educating yourself. Take some courses, take some business courses if you don't know, if you don't know.
That investing, don't be afraid to invest in your business. And that can sometimes mean investing in yourself and what you can learn. A lot of people don't want to they don't want to pay for that course that's going to teach them something, because they're like, oh, I can learn, I can teach it myself for free on Google. No, I'm sorry, Google can't teach you everything all the time, right?
Right. Even the Goldman Sachs course that I took, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm not I'm not this, because I'm always this creative. I'm a creative. I'm a creative business owner. But in doing that, it really did open me up in a certain sense that it's a business is so much bigger than what you are. And if you want to truly build a business in a sense that's sustainable, there's certain practices financially, certain things you have to start doing financially to really have a bigger vision of who you are. It does give you a different sort of perspective when you start understanding your financials. It really does. And I know it's not easy for everybody to take in. It can be very intimidating. I was very intimidated. But at the same time, it gave me some really great tools, or some really great philosophies to think about, as we continue to grow and continue to put ourselves out here, in a different space, And so I hope that's what you were looking for.
No, this is good. As we wind down, are there any of your favorite business resources or tools that you'd recommend our dream drivers check out?
I write a lot. So, we talk about tools. I think that, for me, I carry always something, a smaller sort of journal or something that I can write in, because I think that we're constantly inspired and we don't take notice of that. We don't make a notation of the things that inspire us. I know when we go to lectures sometimes, even in church, you're taking notes, right? Mm-hmm. I think that we got to start taking notes with our everyday life. And write down those things that inspire us, write down things that we saw, if it's even our goals every day, I think that we need to start really visualizing or get in that practice of visualizing where you want to be in your life. So I think that journal is absolutely, important to have.
All right, so let's go to our lightning round, Gina. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor, okay? So we're talking about the gear shifts in the car, all right? The first word is park.
Still.
Reverse.
Oh, my God. stuck,
neutral,
balanced,
and drive.
Go.
And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their car before they hit the road.
I said definitely a journal, something that you could definitely write on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you definitely need some kind of, you need some music to keep you in a space that's, kind of like, creative and in your head. The third thing is, I don't know. I would think that it would have to be sort of like, I don't know. I'm going to say a laptop. I'm lame.
Laptop. Okay. No, that's not lame. That's very practical, right? These are all very practical things. What's next, Gina? Like, where can our dream drivers find you? What are they?
Oh my gosh. So I say, I've been incognito. This is what I say for literally, I'm not joking, like for a minute, because I've been the kind of producer that's always been behind the scenes and not really, I'm not a big public person. And so for us, like, I'm excited right now, in that we're, developing our social media strategies. We're developing a digital marketing strategy right now just for GeChar. We're working on the brass out concept. We're also, going to start doing some space in the arts and cultural world. And when I say that, so for us, like, we're developing probably it's really about a merchandise line. I think they can tie into events. Definitely writing more. So who knows? It may be a book. Like I said, for us, it's definitely, you want to figure out we can get into this television space to start doing some programming or some TV projects. Mm-hmm. So that's what we really are focusing on. And of course, we're excited to continue, our partnership with Essence and continue to make that programming stellar and amazing and keep everybody inspired. And that's what we're working on. Also, we do video branding for different clients too. So our website will be launched in the next couple of weeks, our rebranded website. And we're going to announce some new services like coaching services. And probably teaching some classes. So we have a lot on our plate that we are in the midst of developing. So
I'm so excited to see everything come alive, and I will be cheering from the sidelines.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much.
How do you feel?
I feel okay. I hope I made sense. Because I'm such a spiritual, like, everything to me is all kinds of spirituality. And so I hope that, it all makes sense, that it all ties into really being a grounded person.
No, it did. I definitely got that. And like, what I also realized is I'm somebody who, like, when I have an interview, I always have an idea of how, like, what I think it's going to be about, but I'm never set on it. So I was happy that we went into that shift of really talking about the spirituality and then really going into the business of creativity. Cause I think that that's something that a lot of our listeners, like, they just want to know, like, they don't realize that it's those little things that can really make a big difference, and things that we don't really prioritize all the time, but just having like that spiritual grounding can open up so much in our lives, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's about manifesting. And I didn't talk about that, but that was my hashtag for 2018, manifest 18. And I swear to God, it's been like bam, 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 bam.
So all the things that you kind of like, you had like your vision board and everything's just.
It's like, in October, I decided that I wanted to create this hashtag. Last October, it was Manifest 18, because 18 was all about letting go of 17. And so I had a manifest party for my close friends that I call the dope girls for New Year's Eve, and we did our vision boards. And from that point forward, I kid you not, like, because I've been meditating too. Like, I've incorporated different practices in my life, like daily practices that I'm like, oh my God, I'm driving myself crazy, but I have to do them in order to really continue the vision. Mm-hmm. And so ever since I did that, life has been completely different. I have to say, like, it's been like, this thing that's like, it's building since January. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy, like it visualizing your life, and even the things we say is so important to our dreams. It really is. And that's what Shris said too, that, keeping our that's what Shris is one of the things that our toolkits is really speaking in a positive, a positive light.
That's positive self-talk. We often don't think about all the negative things we can say to ourselves, but if we just switch the words around, that can really be the fuel to our days.
The way that we talk to ourselves is so important. It really, really is. So that was one of the things I probably should put in my toolkit. But I think it was a great interview, so I had a lot of fun.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 180 with Gina. I hope that you enjoyed hearing her dream driving journey as well as her keys to success. If you love what you heard, if you really felt inspired, if you felt empowered, if you felt like you could turn your creative idea into a business, please share this with a friend. You guys, I count on you every week to share the podcast, to help spread the Dreams and Drive message. I can't do it without you. So please screenshot this right now. Post it on your Instagram stories. Post it on your Facebook page, on Twitter, wherever you think that people could be inspired by Gina's words. I appreciate it so much. If you don't already get our weekly newsletter, The Keys, you can go to dreamsanddrive.com/join to sign up. Or if you want to join our Facebook group, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook, or you can search the word Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you're logged on to Facebook. Don't forget to check out the Dreams and Drive bookstore. If we mention a book in the episode, you can find it at dreamsanddrive.com/bookstore. And if you want to get some Dreams and Drive merchandise, we still have t-shirts, crew necks, and hoodies available. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 181. Bye, guys.